All right. Hello there. It's Michelle Maher here, and I'm with Samantha King talking today about this crisis that we're going through and how we're going to get through it. So, Samantha, if you want to speak to who you are and what you do.
Hey guys, I'm Samantha. I was really honored when Michelle reached out to me to come on and chat. And there are so many different things I've been chatting about as a homeschool mom who is used to working with kids. I've been talking about that a lot, and also talking about to my community and showing up for them in the Fempire Builders community. We're an online training center for women in business. I help my clients figure out, how to get their business on autopilot that gives them time freedom, as well as working with clients they love. I'm a niche. They call me a niche and business clarity superstar. And I'm excited to be here and just talk about all of it, because I think it's we're at a point where as women, we naturally wear all the hats. And so on, and just having these conversations are so important. So thank you so much, Michelle, for creating a platform and a group that just popped up out of nowhere to help people as we all try to navigate this.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So that's why I created the group. I found myself being sucked into the fear.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get on on Thursday, when everything kind of went down after the NBA
Mm-hmm.
canceled the season,
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Facebook feed take another turn, and it was all dismal stuff,
Mm-hmm.
downhill, this is the end of the world kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
just so much negativity and so much fear and panic. And then the photos of the empty shelves on the grocery stores and the lines and everything like that, more fear breeds more fear, and panic breeds more
Mm-hmm.
panic. And you can really get caught up on that, in that energy, even if it is just online. So
I
I did
think
get sucked into some of that, to the
mm-hmm.
point that I went to Costco on Friday and lined
Yeah.
up with all those people. So
We've never
uh,
had this kind of outbreak
no,
before, internationally with social media, right? The last times we saw
yeah,
something about
it was SARS, which you
yeah,
spoke to, that you were working there.
yeah, and there was no social media. So it was a different time. There was a different mentality with it, and
Totally.
we weren't seeing like the barren shelves and like and all that kind of stuff. So it is very scary. And I think when we see things like the NBA say we're canceling an entire season, whether you're an employee or a business owner, or just, somebody like even a teenage kid, like you're looking at that and going, oh my goodness, like this must be a big deal. It's more than just
Yeah, that
on my
was
Facebook
huge.
feed. Right. And then we
That
saw
was
the
so huge.
NHL follow suit, and it was just like, these are big money
Everything.
making machines. These are huge economies. Thankfully, we've had entrepreneurs like Mark Cuban step up, and he's trying to do stuff for his employees I think he owns the Mavericks,
Yeah.
right? And trying to get out there and saying like, okay, how are we going to keep, because I think it's bigger than the virus itself. It's going to be the economy we're going to take a huge dive. And so how are we,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
scary, and that
And
then
that
that
is
makes it even more
that's
scary.
a huge, exactly, that fear just really, you can go down that whole rabbit hole,
Hmm.
that like everything, it's just so scary, and everything is going to be different, and so on and so forth. So
Which is why
um
we need groups like yours to kind of gather our people, get our
yeah,
community together, gather each other, and come together, right? I've seen the Mr. Rogers quote come up a lot on social media right now, right? Find the
right,
helpers, look for the helpers. If you can't find a helper, be a helper,
right, yes, yes,
right? In your
yeah,
own way. And this group is fantastic for that.
yeah. So so I was interviewing Krisha Young this earlier today, and we were just speaking about how this whole virus has forced us all to stop, to basically stop, slow down, and reflect, and
Mhm.
um, just be,
Mhm.
still, be ourselves, and figure out what we want to do, and look inward, and spend more time with family. You
Mhm.
can't be rushing off anywhere anymore. You have to,
Mhm.
stay in your home, and you have to get through this together, but you can't be running a mile a minute anymore. So this has
No,
really
it's
caused us to
definitely,
slow down.
And figure out who we want to be in this crisis,
Yes, and who we want to
right?
be afterwards when we come out of it.
Exactly. So, and that's really, that actually is very precious, right?
Yes,
It's terrible circumstances, we know, but this opportunity is very precious in that we are being given this opportunity to decide how we want to show up and who we want to be. And I do that through, on my Instagram stories, I'm giving tips to my business owners. I'm helping. I've opened up anybody who wants to book a call with me to chat, like about working with kids or taking their business online, all of those things, please reach out to me. But I'm also sharing, like, there's a lot of funny stuff that happens in my house. Like, I homeschool two high functioning autistic children. I'm sharing some of that light and love in my stories as well. And just getting, like, my Twitter feed, little things that I'm thinking about or things that are happening that I think might break up some of those other posts that we're seeing. Right. And that's how
right.
I'm helping. And how can
Yeah,
other people help and show up? And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be donating millions of dollars. You don't have to be, just figuring out what little thing can you do to brighten your community's day.
right. Yes, yeah. Because now we can't meet in person anymore. So I've found that I've been on Zoom ever since it started, talking to
Mhm.
different people, and everybody is putting out something where they're offering their services to help others. Because we
Mhm.
are in this together and we have to get through this together.
Mhm.
Um, that's how we're going to get through it as a community. And that's why it's so important that, I mean, it's so good that we have this
Mhm.
technology, that we
Mhm.
are able to have these meetings on Zoom, and we can actually meet and feel, we don't feel isolated,
Yeah, we don't feel
that's
alone, because I think that's one
and
of the
alone.
things,
Yeah,
like, a lot of, especially with the working moms who are now, whether they're working for themselves or they're working at home and now the kids are at home, a lot of what they're feeling very isolated, they're feeling very alone. And then that's compounded by the guilt they're feeling too, because they have to work. And and I know that all these companies have opened up and they're sharing resources and stuff to share with your kids. And I think it's great, and we need, as many resources to keep our kids busy as possible. But I think what's happened is there's this added pressure where moms are like, oh, I've got to homeschool my kids. And I've been saying to people, like, it's really only right now, because we don't know where it's going beyond
mm,
today. But
right.
as of right now, it's really only an extra week than what you would have done at Christmas. Right. So the
Oh,
kids are off
right.
for right? They're off for 2 weeks at Christmas. Now they're off for 3 weeks. And did you homeschool during those 2 weeks at Christmas? No. They were guided by their own interests and by their own learning and their own experiences, And so I think there's some pressure being put on, or dads, whoever's at home with their kids, that they've got to, like, homeschool their kids now and work and it's
Okay, right.
right. And
Yeah,
it's like, no, 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 no. Like, let's take a break, right? Because as I was saying to you before we got on the call, I've been homeschooling for 3 years. So not a lot has changed from that perspective in my world. But I
right.
keep telling people, like, I'm here, let's talk about it. Let me help you. But don't ever compare what you're going through today, which is, what are we at? Like day three of this, to my year 3.
Right. Yeah, yeah, true. That's
And I
true.
think
But
that's
yeah,
really what it is. When we talk about mindset, we have to also talk about expectations and giving ourselves grace, right?
right.
Not everything is good, whether it's you're working with kids, dealing with your families, maybe you went out on the weekend and you didn't, before things were all shut down, or whatever. Like, giving yourself grace that you're doing the best you can with the information that we all have right now, because this is changing minute to minute.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it
Day
is.
to day, hour to hour, even minute to minute, things are changing. So do the best with what you have right now. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Right. And give yourself grace, because otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Like,
like when when I was listening to after Doug Ford announced that it was a state of emergency, and the
mhm.
reporters were talking, they said, well, why didn't you call that yesterday? Why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? And such judgment, like saying, how come you didn't do all
Which we
these
don't
things?
need.
But
Which
we
we don't
don't need
need.
that. No, it doesn't do you any good. And like you say, it's changing all the time. They're doing
It
the
is.
best with the information that they have.
It is. And I haven't watched a lot of the Doug Ford coverage, but he has
No.
said on all the ones I've seen that he's following the chief medical officer's advice. And
Yeah.
that's all we can really ask for him to do. And those are whether you're a Ford supporter or not, just like whether you're a Trudeau supporter or not, all we can ask them to do is make the best decisions they can with all the information that they have at that
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And as humans, that's all we can do too.
Exactly. Right. Right. And I know that I'm having some issues with my daughter wanting to, associate with her friends and everything like that. And
Which is ironic because most teenagers are on their phones all day anyway, but right now they're like, no, we have to be in front of each other.
But when they are in front of each other, they're all on their phones. Yeah, exactly. They all sit in the same room and they're all on their phones. But
and it's hard to get to that. It's hard to get to that age group because, as I was saying to you before we got on the phone, I was 18 when SARS hit. I was working in I worked in a doctor's office, a small town doctor's office. And they wanted us to wear those masks like we're seeing the celebrities wear as they're trying to get back to where they're going and stuff, or back to their houses. And it would give me the most terrible migraine because it would sit right here. And so I was going home with violent migraines. And I decided in my 18-year-old infinite wisdom that I didn't want the headache every day. I just take my chances with SARS. Right. Because I'm young, this is literally, I'm young, I'm healthy. Right. Yep. And really as a 36-year-old, I'm going, honey, you didn't know any better. Because as I think about, I was also working at the local video store and that was in a different community. And think about through the 6 degrees of separation at a video store who I may have been coming into contact into. And so, but it was that nobody sat and I was always, and I'm not saying that I can honestly say I've always been a very conscientious person, but nobody had the conversation with me at all. But even like they didn't talk at me or order me or have a more meaningful conversation, which is I think what we need to have with these kids, to talk to them about like their social responsibility. They're very interested in climate change. They're very interested in all of these things. And this is no different. This is still a social responsibility piece. And so how can you step up and make sure that you are not going to be part of the problem? We can't control our friends. We can't control, but I can control myself and I can control what I do. And so how do I make those choices? And that was just something, nobody talked to me about it at all in 2003, because again, we didn't have social media. We didn't have this whole thing. But if somebody had sat me down, even if somebody had yelled at me not to do it, I would have changed differently. Right. But that's just me. Right. But if we sit down with these children and try to explain to them, because they're young adults, they have to make their own decisions, and I don't have the answer of how to do that, but how do we talk to them about their social responsibility?
Yeah, right. Because it may be true that they're young and healthy and they're not going to get, if they get the virus, it's not going to be detrimental, but it's who they can give it to. And it's not just one person, right? I believe one person can infect 3 people or something like that. And it's exponential, right?
So when I think
like that commercial back in whatever it was, maybe in the 80s with the shampoo and she told 2 friends and they told 2 friends and they told 2 friends. And anyhow, that's what it goes. That's how it's gone. And that's what happened in Italy. That's why it just went
cringe. That was my mentality. Like if I cringe because the reality is I didn't know any better.
No.
Right? No. And these guys don't know any better. And I think it's about, if it gets to the point where you got to yell at them and order them around, I think we'll do what we got to do. But I think trying to have these conversations with them and trying to connect it to something that is actually relevant to them.
Right.
So, that's really important when we're talking to children about this. And whenever you're talking to kids about anything, but the idea that making it relevant for them, trying to find different ways to get in there with them, to talk to them about it so that they understand. So like with my kids, we homeschool, so there wasn't a big change, but a lot of our programs were canceled. And
Right.
so then trying to explain to a 9 and a 4-year-old why they weren't sick, but they still couldn't go. Right. And so then it was about bringing it into those conversations and bringing it into things that were relevant to them. Because my son keeps saying like, well, why can't I go skating? I'm not sick. But right now we're practicing as a global community to we're practicing how we can help others from getting sick. And part of that is that we're going to do this. Right. So bringing it in, and
Right.
then it was like, it's bigger than, for him, it was like, oh, okay, right? Like it's bigger than himself. And for my daughter, that really is relevant to her, that it's bigger than herself, that there are
Right.
people out there that she doesn't like. For her, if you had elderly people, or like, I would not want to be responsible for making anybody sick.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with 17 and 18-year-olds. How do we get them to connect? Because if somebody had pointed that out to me during SARS, I would have been like, oh, well, then if that's the case, then yeah, I'm at a huge risk for getting other people sick. I need to wear the mask.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And at that point, back in SARS, we didn't know anything. Look how much was learned through SARS,
Exactly. And a lot
which
of the
makes us in a much better position now to deal with this. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you say, social media was not the same as it is now. And the problem is, like you were saying, some of the people in authority type positions, like stars or anybody who is a TikTok TikTok celebrity or YouTube celebrity or whatever, these kids look up to. If somebody says something, like I'm not gonna get, I'm young, if I get sick, it doesn't matter, then that's just not, that's not good. So we
No,
don't want,
and if you're looking for a great
yeah,
example of that, as I was saying to you, go onto Twitter and look up Vanessa Hudgens, or Google Vanessa Hudgens, because
yeah.
she had 30 seconds that her PR company is probably not overly happy about, because she was
For
basically
sure.
like playing loose and whatever with people's lives. Like, oh, it's inevitable, people are going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
that's not what we need.
like, that's not, and so you're okay with
What good
being,
is that? And what good is that doing? What good is putting
right?
that out into the world doing?
And you're okay with being part of that process. I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's not,
So
yeah.
again, right. And so we're having these situations where I want to see more people, like, and of course, Chris Martin of Coldplay, who was taking requests the other day on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, or Twitter, wherever he was. I'd love to see some of the younger stars do more of that too.
Right.
Right.
Right. For
Because
sure.
the Chris Martins are like me, where we were
Yeah.
young during SARS, and we were those, we may not have made the best choices during SARS, but now we've learned from it. And so we're stepping up. And so how do we get our young kids to look at these examples and go, here's what we need to be doing?
Yeah. And here's the chance to step up and do something good for the good of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. True. So that's, yeah. So basically now we've got this time that we have been given.
Mm-hmm.
Basically it's like we're given 3 weeks off.
Mm-hmm. That we know of right now.
At least now, to go and figure out what you want to do and who you want to be. And self-care is definitely important in this as well, because everybody is doing the social distancing and isolating themselves in their home. You can
Mm-hmm.
still go outside. Thank God it is March and this isn't happening in January. So the
Yeah.
weather is getting nicer and we can get outside, get into nature, which is great too, because it's forcing us to spend more time in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Some of, sorry, not forcing us, but for some people who didn't
It's a blessing in disguise.
didn't make the choice to spend time in nature, this is
Mm-hmm.
like you're only like, there's nowhere to go. You can go outside, but there's nowhere to go except
Mm-hmm.
for, I guess, the grocery store. But
Which even that we try to limit, right? Like my
we
husband,
want to avoid that wherever possible.
yeah,
Yeah.
somebody's got to
So
go to the grocery store at our house today. We're calling it a wish list, not a grocery list, because we know that there's a lot going on out there, but we go out one at a time. Like it's not a family
no,
extravagant affair, right? Where our
no,
walks are, right? Because
right.
at least we can go outside and we can walk around. And again, we're practicing we're just practicing. We played board games this morning in between this interview and a call I had, like
Right.
finding almost like, I feel like we're being blessed with this opportunity to get back to basics,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If you're
And
if
that's
you're not
exactly it.
somebody, right? If you're not somebody who's taken their business online, or you're still trying to like, or you're still even just, you're still reeling with it, right? Because I think one of the things is we're seeing all these big companies, like if I get one more like Corona or
Oh, the
COVID-19,
email?
right? And I think that
Yeah.
they have to do it, and that's all great. But these bigger companies are reacting and they're doing all these things. And I think as business owners, we feel like, oh my goodness, like I should be doing something or whatever. And I think that a lot of the time we have to just, like I was saying, give ourselves some grace. Like we will figure out how to show up, but right now we have to take care of ourselves, because it has been overwhelming, right? Whether it's
Yes.
because you have a personal connection to it, maybe you have elderly family, or you have friends and family who are traveling overseas and are trying to get home, or you're trying to work with your kids at home, or it's your small business and you had to make
Yeah.
the decision to close it for 3 weeks, right? Like, first we have to take care of ourselves. We have to get our head on straight, and nature is always there, has
Right.
always been there for us. And guess what? It's still there, and we can go out there, and it's always been a great way to do that. So I agree. Like, thank goodness
Yeah. Yeah.
it is not
True.
January.
Yes.
I don't mind going out in like the springtime mud, whatever, when it's like 2 degrees out. Like in Canada, we call that like spring. Okay. T-shirt weather.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the thing. At least we have that, because and you need that
We all need
to
to get,
recharge.
yeah, we all need to do that, and to get our head around what's next in our business as small business owners, and
Yes.
how we are
Yeah,
going to,
because it can be so scary just thinking
right?
about it.
And
It
how we're
can,
going to pivot to show up for our clients and to show
yes.
up for our community. Because one of the things that we don't want to do is stop. We want to figure out new ways and get creative about how we could show up and service our current customers and our current community. Because, this is something I've said to a number of people, and some tips I've shared on my social media accounts, is that
Mhm.
now is the time to be planting seeds and nurturing your community. Because if you're not planting those seeds now and you're not nurturing them, when we get through this, there's going to be no sales to harvest, right?
Right.
Have
Right.
to we have to continue. We can't take a break in our business right now. There are things that we can do behind the scenes, right? I mean, if you don't have your taxes done, hey, now's a great time. Even though CRA's extended it, it's still a great time to put some time in there. But now is the time to be working on our business and planting those seeds for sales and getting creative about
Yeah.
how to diversify our income streams beyond what we have now.
Right. That's a good point as well. Because yeah, definitely. This shows you one income stream isn't necessarily enough. That's for sure.
Yeah. And
We
it,
need to have multiple like just yeah,
multiple
breaking it
sales
up.
arms. Do you know what I mean? Like if we think
Yeah.
about, like I mentioned Mark Cuban, right? Here's a guy who's got his hands in all kinds of things. Also owns the Denver, what are they? The Dallas Mavericks? I'm not an
Yeah.
NBA person,
I think
but
that's what it is.
right, he was a he was a shark on Shark Tank. So
Yeah.
these guys have their hands in multiple pots, and we're no different. We need to diversify, and now's a great time because we can't. For some of us, we can't necessarily dive in, as you were saying, like events are canceled. So we can't necessarily show up the way we traditionally would. So how do we, and that's one of the things I've been helping people in the calls. I'm giving them a free 30-minute session with me to talk about, like, how can we show up for our clients differently and still, and still service them the way we want to service them. Because the reality is that people are still making buying decisions. People are
Yeah.
still spending money. I mean, this week I spent money, like yesterday alone, I spent money on buying I love TV. So I bought a series on YouTube to watch. I am buying a Barbie for my son because I watched Frozen 2 and I want him to be like Kristoff. And I bought cookies, right? What they're buying now are things that are going to help them feel good and cope through this time.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
how can you help them, right? Look for the helpers. How can you show up and be a helper? And it could be anything. It's okay that at this point in time to think outside of the box of your general offerings and think about, okay, what else can I do?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Right?
That's
Uh,
for sure.
Fempire Fempire Builders, we're an online training center, but we're actually launching a course maker program to teach people how to create online courses. So
Oh,
now,
that's great. That's a
yeah,
good.
now
Yeah.
it's launching right now. You're one of the
Mm.
first people to hear about it. But now is the time to think about what skills you have that you can turn into a course. Because I'll show you how to do it. I'll hold your hand and we'll get it all done. And then heck, we'll even host it for you on our Teachable platform on our training center as part of this membership. But really starting to think about, okay, what else can I do for my ideal clients? How else can I show up for them? And just how else can I show up for the community? I mean, we all have skills and talents that so people will buy. I mean, bounce lettering and like calligraphy is huge right now, and people will pay to do it. And now's the time where people are going to be looking to entertain themselves, and they can't leave the home. They can't go to a dance class. They can't go to an art class, but
Right.
they
Yeah.
can, but they can take part in your course.
Yeah. Right. And with the internet, anything. There's so much you can do. It's wide
Right?
open. It's wide
Ex-
open to you. And this is a
right?
way that you can service your clients from
Right? And,
from
and
home, and nobody. Yeah. Yeah. There's just so
right?
much opportunity there.
And diversify your income stream.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you make beautiful pieces. You've got a great studio background there behind you. You might decide that you want to put a course together on and it could be 3 or 4 modules on how to make rings, right? Or how to make homemade jewelry and stuff, because
Yeah.
you're going to have the people who your ideal client is always going to be the person who wants the one of a kind piece, because that's what you bring them. You bring
Right.
them beautifully designed, one of a kind pieces, well thought out, right? If we follow you on social media, we know the thought process you put in to each piece of jewelry, as well as the coloring and all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But there are going to be people who want to do it themselves. And so here's a way for you to diversify your income stream and let those people do that while you continue to create for your ideal client. Will you
Yeah.
continue to create beautiful pieces, right? Another thing that you know a ton about is like the gems and the jewels. And how many times have I said to you, like, well, what does that one mean? Because I
Right.
identify with the meaning. So
Yep.
it's the color's great, but what does it mean, right? And so could you put together, a small module of that, right? And then go into your talents, guys. Like, how else can we put something together to take our business online?
Yeah. That's yeah, definitely. Those are great ideas. There's so much
Right.
to think about.
And
And
that's just the online
this is
course
the
piece.
time, right? This is the
Yeah.
time not that we didn't have time otherwise, but you're forced to. You're
To
forced
really think about it. It's the
to.
opportunity to do
You've
that.
got the opportunity. Exactly. Yeah, you have the time right now to
Yeah,
do
and it
that.
may not be an online course. It might be something else. I mean, like I said, I've been talking to people and we're just brainstorming different ways to serve their niche, understanding their niche. And we've talked about online courses as well. But really, like, start thinking outside the box of how you can serve the people around you and how you can diversify your income stream. It's okay to diversify. If you've got a special talent back there, I mean, you know what I get asked a lot if we have on our training center? Knitting courses. People are dying to learn how to knit.
Really?
So, yeah. So I like really
Hmm.
think about what your skill sets are and what things you have that people might be interested in. What are the things
Right.
that people, right? And what are the things that people come to you all the time that you know how to do and they're like, "Oh, I need help with this." Right? Thinking
Yeah.
about thinking about those things. What do people come to you about all the time? Like, it's such a great now is a great time to really sit, and I like to sit or go out for a walk and or I personally like to do something creative. So I might color, I might, like I've done mosaics while I'm trying to like work through a block and see what downloads, what comes to me in that moment. Find your moment, your activity that brings you peace. Cause I can't just sit and meditate. I'm not that person.
Right.
I always have
Yeah.
to be doing something. So do that and see what comes to you. What else could you be doing right now? And what are some things that you've thought about? Like, hey, maybe I've always thought about doing X or Y, or, because now's the time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was listening to Hub had a Zoom call, I think it was yesterday, with this Jeffrey Eisen, who is a life coach out of Toronto. And he was just speaking about different lists to be working on now. He was talking about journaling and then making different lists, one being a bucket list, not necessarily a bucket list for traveling, but rather things you've always wanted to do. A self-care list, because you must take care of yourself now, because we know that it's very important that everybody's immune system is the best it can be.
Yeah.
And of course, fear, if you let the fear get to you, and fear and stress will attack your immune system, right? So we want to make sure that to take care of ourselves first. And then, he actually referenced like the oxygen mask on the plane, right? How you have to give it to
You got to
yourself
cover
first.
yourself first.
Yeah. And then another list was who do you want to be when we get out of this crisis? So start thinking about that. And then the fourth thing was getting creative with your business, and how can you, think about putting things online where they're not online now, or creative things for, to do in the future to get your, well, so that you do have different streams of income and different offerings to expand the services. Because the other thing is, this is going to have an economic effect, right? This whole.
And so how can you make it happen? And I mean, if you're somebody who is a maker of things, and you traditionally go out to events and you meet people that way and you sell that way, now is a great time to check out Shopify and see what's involved in putting a store online. Shopify's got a great free resource academy to help you start like taking it e-commerce and going that way. Like there's so many different platforms, and there's so many different things that you can do in your business. And sometimes whether you chat with me, or you chat with, your business bestie, or you just sit in your moment and wait to see what comes to you, it's take that time to really brainstorm and think outside the box. Don't think about your wildest dreams for your business. What are your wildest dreams for your business? What would you love to do? Or your wildest dreams of things that you just love to do in general. Now is the time. To get out there and say, okay, here, I've got this, I'll do this. Right?
Yeah, because now when you say that, just think, whoever thought this would happen? You never would have forecast this or thought that this was possible, to have this shutdown. Who would have thought the NBA, the NHL, all the sports teams shut down? I mean, I guess the next thing is that I don't know, I haven't heard anything yet, but the Olympics this year, right? Like,
we don't know.
We don't know yet, but
we don't know.
Who would have ever thought that everything would be shut down like this, and the whole country in quarantine like Italy is? So from when you think of that, just think of that with respect to your business and what you can do. You can do anything. Anything is possible, because if that can happen in the whole world like that, anything can happen with you.
That's right.
And you can create anything from your business or your life or whatever.
Yep. And you can pivot to whatever, right? We're almost being given this opportunity to say, like, all right, what else can I do? What else do I think I want? What else am I excited about? What else would I like to do? Because the how people, that's everywhere. You can find
find somebody. Yep.
You can find somebody who knows how to do that. It's the only thing you're being limited by right now is your ability to dream.
Yeah. And this should teach you that you could dream.
That's
right. You can dream big. You can dream big, because just imagine, you see the impact of this virus. You can do that. You can have the same impact yourself in the world.
Exactly.
As well. So, yeah.
And we need you.
Yeah.
We need
Yep.
you. Whatever it is that you dream about, whatever it is, whatever talent you have, whatever skill you have, don't think that, oh, COVID-19, nobody's going to want to hear about my, bounce lettering course or my jewelry making course or whatever it is that you have,
Yep.
because we need you. And these are the things that we need to help take our minds off of what's going on social media. We need things to do while we're at home.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things that are going to make us feel better. We're looking for things that are going to help take our minds off of what's going on in the world for just a moment.
Yeah. Right. For sure. Yeah. That's a great point. Um, that's a great point for sure, because we don't know how long this is going to go on for as well. I mean, right
Exactly.
now it's 3 weeks, and it's going to be revisited, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that was great talking to you, Samantha.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for all the insight.
Mhm.
Um, we're definitely going to get through this together. That's why I've created this community, and I see so many people coming online, and everybody's, like you say, everyone's being the helper, or pointing to the helper, or whatever, sharing wherever possible. Everyone's sharing their
Exactly.
talents and their resources, and everybody is coming together. It's just we need to just stay away from the fear, focus, and look inward, and stay together as a community, and then we'll
Yeah.
get through this.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for giving us this opportunity and
Okay, you're
another
welcome.
place to come and do that.
Yeah, and I will definitely put a link down there to your Fempire Builders community,
Yeah.
as well as your website for people that are interested in finding out further information
Yeah. Awesome.
and
Absolutely.
resources. All
Great.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, bye everybody for now. Until the next video.
Yeah.